Hello and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. Coming up in today's newscast, Israelis react to the inauguration of U.S. President Donald Trump. Christians flock to the Jordan River despite imminent danger, and an Israeli superstar makes it onto another major Super Bowl ad. I'm Natasha Kirchuk here with the latest news in Israel. Donald J. Trump has officially been inaugurated as the 45th President of the United States, and Israel is not only welcoming the new leader with enthusiasm, but may have even been the very first nation in the world to offer congratulations. That's because the January 20th swearing-in ceremony was held on a Friday, and when Trump took the oath of office, it was already after the start of the Jewish Sabbath Israeli time. So Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu sent out a congratulatory tweet just a little early. So he made sure to deliver his own personal best wishes, as well as those of the Israeli people. He wrote, "Congrats to my friend President Trump. Look forward to working closely with you to make the alliance between Israel and the USA stronger than ever." Israel's ambassador to the United States echoed that statement, and UN envoy Danny Danon commented that a true friend of Israel is now in the White House. Danon also thanked President Trump for his unequivocal support and added that Israel is looking forward to welcoming him to its capital of Jerusalem. In related news, Prime Minister Netanyahu has reportedly been given a special report drawn up by sources in the army, police, and Shin Bet security service on possible reactions to the relocation of the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. There has been widespread opposition to Trump's proposed move from Arab and Islamic groups, and the Israeli premier wants to be prepared for all contingencies. Now, not everyone is happy about Donald Trump becoming America's 45th president, of course. Hundreds of Israeli women hit the streets in a show of solidarity with worldwide protests being held during the inauguration. Millions of mainly liberal marchers held at least 670 rallies across the globe. In opposition to many of Trump's conservative policies and campaign statements they perceive as being offensive. The small protest of several hundred Israelis took place outside the American embassy in Tel Aviv.
I'm here at the Sister March because I think it's essential that there be solidarity with women all around the world to stand up to what Trump and the Trump administration stand for. The disrespect for women, the disrespect for LGBT rights, or civil rights, climate warming. All of these issues are global issues and critical issues. It's really important that he get the message not just from America, but from the entire world. And I want to be a part of that.
Several carried signs expressing embarrassment to be Americans, while others read that it's love and not hate that makes America great.
I'm here because I believe that Donald Trump is a sexist. I believe he's a misogynist, and I also believe that he's extremely racist, and I think that we shouldn't have people like that as the president of one of the greatest countries in the world.
Many of the women chanted in English that women's rights are human rights and that to be a Jew is to demand justice. Israeli police were on hand to secure the event. The Israeli protest passed peacefully and without incident, unlike the main march in Washington, D.C. 6 American police officers were injured in demonstrations that turned violent. At least 230 people were arrested and now face potential charges of felony rioting that carries sentences of up to 10 years behind bars and $25,000 fines. As happy as many Israelis are about the Trump inauguration, there's been an outburst of fury in the Arab territories over what they fear may usher in major changes in American policy. Israeli Arab lawmaker Ahmed Tibi strongly opposes any Israeli annexation of land and is accusing his fellow members of Knesset of using Trump's support as an excuse to break the law.
According to the voices heard by Naftali Bennett, by some Likud members, they are waiting for the very moment of the inauguration and the beginning of the Trump administration in order to start to annex, to build more, and to be much more brutal.
A spokesman for Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas called the proposed annexation a red line and said any such Israeli decision would be considered a dangerous escalation, ending any hopes for peace.
Definitely, this step will put an end for any relationship between the Palestinian leadership and the Palestinian state and the state of Israel. If this is a serious step, this will put an end to any serious hope for peace, especially that this settlement is illegal and it would divide the West Bank and would lead to a situation that nobody can control.
Palestinian President Abbas is also warning against Trump's authorizing the U.S. Embassy relocation.
نحن قلنا للسيد ترامب نتمنى أن لا ينقل السفارة من تل أبيب إلى القدس لأن القدس من وجهة نظر إسرائيل مدينة موحدة، وهذا غير صحيح طبعا، غير قانوني، وبالتالي في أي مكان ينقل السفارة ينقلها سابقا لكل ما يمكن أن يحصل في المستقبل، يعني يعطل عملية السلام، ولذلك نتمنى أن يوقف هذا وأن تبدأ المفاوضات على أساس الشرعية الدولية.
Other Palestinians responded negatively when asked if a Trump presidency signals anything positive.
ما أظن أنا بالنسبة لي مش رح يسوي شيء منيح بتاتا للشعب الفلسطيني بالذات، لأنه هو يعني اللي بسمعه أنا إنه بكره العرب وبالأخص كمان المسلمين، يعني فما أظنيش في أمل منه.
Meanwhile, there were furious protests throughout the Palestinian territories during the inaugural ceremony. Photographs of the new U.S. president were stomped on and set on fire in Bethlehem, near the border with Israel. Activists also put up anti-Trump posters on the separation barrier in a show of anger over the possible embassy move.
لنقول لكل العالم يعني إنه ما يقوم به ترامب هو يعني نقد لكل المواثيق الدولية والمعاهدات الدولية وأيضا للحق الفلسطيني. اليوم جئنا نقول إن الشعب الفلسطيني صاحب حق في القدس أن تكون عاصمته الأبدية، ولن نقبل بغير القدس عاصمة للدولة الفلسطينية المستقبلية إن شاء الله.
Dozens of Palestinians demonstrating in the West Bank city of Ramallah included members of Fatah's Central Committee, headed by Palestinian President Abbas.
رسالتنا كفتح ومشاركة كل القوى الوطنية والإسلامية، لأن هاي اليوم القرار رئيس ترامب بنقل السفارة من تل أبيب للقدس يمس كل الشعب الفلسطيني، يمس الأمة العربية والأمة الإسلامية والعالم المسيحي.
Others gathered in the center of Hebron and shouted slogans about the Palestinian claim to Jerusalem as the capital of their future state. At Hamas-organized protests in Gaza City, speakers addressed crowds with statements against Trump as onlookers carried signs reading, "We refuse the relocation of the U.S. Embassy to Palestine's capital, Jerusalem." The FBI and EU fraud authorities held an emergency summit this month to discuss combating the massive fraud taking place in the business of binary options. Most of the binary options firms are located in or are connected to Israel, and law enforcement officials from 20 countries convened in The Hague to discuss how to tackle the problem. The Times of Israel has been at the forefront of a series of articles exposing how binary options firms rip off customers, and the lead investigative reporter is Simona Weinglass, who told ILTV's Steve Leibowitz that some of the culprits are well-known Israeli businessmen.
Thus far, there's been almost no law enforcement within Israel, and the industry is going forward as usual.
So you're saying that people in Israel are still selling binary options?
Right.
Thousands of people in this business?
Thousands of people are waking up every morning and going to work and selling these binary options to people abroad.
Selling only to people abroad? They're not selling to people in Israel?
It's illegal to sell to people in Israel. I've heard that there are some companies that still sell to people in Israel, but the vast majority of the money is abroad.
Binary options, is it more like fraud or like gambling? Does anybody actually make money?
It depends on the company. I've heard from brokers who worked inside the company that it was something like 98 to 99% of customers lost some or all of their money. What some of the companies do is they tell the brokers that it's up to you. In other words, if you have a client who wins $100,000 and you want to let them withdraw that money, you're welcome to, but that will be taken out of your commission for the month. So what happens in effect is that the vast majority of clients lose their money.
So we're talking about a very, very crooked business that is owned in part by very wealthy, even known individuals here in Israel.
That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. There are a lot of ties to people. There are ties to people within the police. There are ties to prominent business people, ties to people who are connected to large newspapers. And therefore, it is an entrenched problem, and it may be difficult to root out completely.
Have they been protected to some extent? Have the binary companies been protected, to your knowledge, from what you could tell from people in the police and from some newspapers and others?
When I interview people inside the industry, they say, yes, of course, I believe we have protection. I believe that this industry is being protected by the government, or at least law enforcement is looking the other way. I don't have any specific evidence of that. It's just rumors.
So the story is not dead. Binary options continue, even though the Knesset has held hearings about it and launched an investigation, and even though it's illegal here in Israel, thousands of Israelis are still making a living at something which is certainly disreputable. And even the Prime Minister's office of Israel has put out an announcement saying that this should not exist.
Right, they have, but that hasn't been backed up by any law enforcement action to shut this down.
So where do you go from here with the story? You're going to continue on with the story? There's more to be investigated?
There's more to be investigated. The industry is so large, and it's been festering for over 9 years, that there are a lot of things left to expose.
Thanks very much for being with us at ILTV, and I hope you'll keep us in the loop, keep the viewers and your readers informed. It's very important work.
Thank you.
One of the most meaningful sites to visit in Israel is the Jordan River, where worshipers believe Jesus was baptized. Many continue to celebrate Epiphany at a bend of the river in the West Bank, but it's still littered with thousands of mines and unexploded ordnance. The riverbanks were once a war zone between Israel and Jordan. The two neighbors made peace in 1994, but it took many years before some of the mine clearing even began. Both claim that the site where John the Baptist and Jesus met is on their side of the river, and the Gospel of John is a bit vague on the details. The Israelis officially opened a site for pilgrims in 2011, although the Jordanian side remains strictly off limits.
جينا اليوم عشان نزور في المغطس، وهذه مناسبة بالنسبة لنا الدينية وبتأثر لنا كتير، لأنه بيعتبر أقدس يوم عنا في الديانة المسيحية اللي هو عيد الغطاس. وهذه فرصة كتير حلوة إنه إحنا بنقدر نوصل هون رغم الحواجز ورغم كل الصعوبات اللي مرينا فيها.
A Scottish-based charity called the Halo Trust has cleared minefields worldwide and was once sponsored by the late Princess Diana. It's now seeking to raise $4 million to make the western site safe, an effort supported by Israel, the Jordanians, and the Palestinian authorities. The mined area is about a half-mile from the cleared area at Qasr al-Yahud, where Christian pilgrims already flock to be baptized.
The baptism site is the third holy site for the Christian world. It has been mined back in the late 70s, and for the last almost 50 years, this area is declared as a closed military area, and there is no access to the public and to pilgrims to come and to pray and to practice as they used to. Given the importance of this site, the Halo Trust decided to take the responsibility and to clear this area, which is total size is 1 million square meters of mines and unexplosive ordnance.
Halo says some of the abandoned church buildings in the area were booby-trapped by Israeli forces after the 1967 war to help secure its frontier against infiltration from Arab enemies. This makes the work for the group's team of 35 to 40 sappers more complex.
We are expecting to find more or less, I guess, around 4,000 targets. Most of them are already verified targets, the anti-tank mines. We do have some parts of the anti-personnel belts over here in the area that you can see behind us. Now we're kind of waiting for Halo to say that they've reached the point where operations can start. And I hope that this idea of us will become a reality in the next 2 years.
The World Wide Web is more vast than you can imagine, and almost every day new pages are being added. But did you know that all the web pages you can think of with a www address only make up about 4% of the internet in total? The other 96% of the internet is represented in what's commonly called the invisible, deep, or dark web, and it can't be accessed through your typical browser. It's here that the hackers and criminals of the net operate, and their activity is very, very difficult to monitor or police. That's why one Israeli company called Sixskill has made it their mission to change that and help you sleep well at night. Joining me in the studio to discuss the service is Sixskill CEO and co-founder Avi Kazdan. Thanks so much for coming in.
Hi, Natasha. Thank you for inviting me.
So we've had you here before. Let's begin and talk about the dark web. How is it accessed and how is it used by criminals?
Okay, the dark web is used in several ways. There are several tools that enable us to access the dark web. And in that regard, the main difficulty, the main challenge is to understand what's going on there, because there are many pieces of information. How do you manage to access, understand, and figure it out? That's basically the challenge.
Absolutely. Now, you know, are criminals and shady personalities the only people that are on the dark web? And why is this dark web not available to me and my normal web browser, for example?
Okay, first of all, there are not only bad people in the dark web. There are very good people with very good intentions. Just imagine places where there is dictatorship and people try to get out information. Or just they have to have their own freedoms. So the dark web is a great place in order to do these kind of things. Now, to your second question, what is not available to normal web browsers? First of all, we need to differentiate the hidden web, what is called the hidden or deep web, from the dark web.
Right.
The deep web is basically everything that is not indexed by regular search engines by definition. And you may have many reasons why this will happen. Okay, this can comprehend from databases that are protected, user password, to pages that are created dynamically or stuff like that. Not necessarily with a certain goal of hiding information or doing bad stuff. Okay, and then you have the dark web, that is a subgroup of the deep web, that not only it's not indexed, but it's also anonymous and encrypted.
Right.
And it's created from the beginning with that in mind. So that's the reason it's not, you cannot access that with a regular web browser.
Interesting. Now, how does Sixskill work in monitoring the dark web specifically?
Well, we have developed a system that automatically monitor and analyze this dark web activity. So we have developed several technologies that is able to find, first of all, where those things happen, and then secondly, to extract this information so you can analyze all this information. And then we come to the conclusion that basically these are people, these are human beings,
right,
and not just data. So we try to analyze the human behavior. So we use some artificial intelligence in order to understand how human people behave. And sometimes we behave in not so many predicted ways or rational ways as one may think, for example.
Right. Now, how is Sixskill different from other, products that exist on the market, other antivirus or security programs?
Okay, first of all, we do not compare to antivirus, and we are not what is called perimeter defense. Okay, we're able to see the attack, to see some of the attacks before they happen, to provide with data leaks. Okay, so we are one step before all this happen. So,
right,
so the companies, for example, that try to analyze if your company is infected, it's not infected. In general, when it happens, it's just too late. So we need to catch that before that happens.
Interesting. Now, I guess the final question here is how can we use Sixskill? Where is it available? Is it available yet?
Okay, yes. First of all, yes, it is available. We have now operations in more than 25 countries around the world. In general, the customers, they come from governmental parts to financial sectors, telecoms, intelligence agencies, basically that.
Wow. All right, well, thank you so much for coming in and informing us a little bit more about the dark web. It's a vast and scary place for most of us, and hopefully your product is really going to be helping us, sleep well at night.
Thank you very much.
A lot of people around the world say they look forward to the U.S. Super Bowl football championship, not necessarily out of a love for the sport, but because it's a known opportunity to see many of the best commercials ever created. And we know this year is already going to be great because one of those ads is going to feature Israeli Wonder Woman Gal Gadot and the Jewish state's high-tech company Wix. Aaron, I remember when Israeli supermodel Bar Rafaeli did that crazy commercial with GoDaddy, featured a very exciting kiss that made some major waves.
Yeah, I think there were probably a lot of people who were very jealous of that actor, Jesse Heyman. I think in Time magazine he said it was like kissing God's hands.
Well, she definitely broke a lot of hearts with that commercial coming out. I remember it was the talk of every major news station. So how many views do you think an ad like this one is going to get? It's combining both an Israeli supermodel and an Israeli company.
Well, I'm not 100% sure that the fact that it's Israeli will play so much into it. I think Gal Gadot has made a very big name for herself internationally, and I think that is what more people will be focusing on.
Well, I know that Wix has had a lot of commercial success. Last year, their commercial, which featured Kung Fu Panda, was the most viewed Super Bowl commercial. Mm-hmm. So I think we have something exciting to look forward to. Let's check out your report.
All right.
The leading Israeli company helps users to create their own websites with an easy-to-use do-it-yourself online platform. It's so successful that it already has a rapidly expanding customer base with more than 98 million registered users worldwide. This will be the third consecutive year it's running an ad during the Super Bowl. The spot was directed by Hollywood's Louis Leterrier, who's most famous for movies like Unleashed, The Incredible Hulk, and Now You See Me. And of course, Israeli star Gal Gadot needs no introduction, after shooting to fame with her portrayal of Wonder Woman. The commercial is being kept tightly under wraps until the February 5th playoff, but other ads are being released as part of the Wix overall campaign leading up to the most watched American sporting event of the year. The first video just came out less than 24 hours ago, showing a young chef concentrating on building his new website with Wix, while Gal Gadot and her superhero British co-star Jason Statham battle villains nearby as a tagline runs that, quote, "To succeed in a disruptive world, Wix makes it easy to create your own website," end quote. So be sure to keep your eyes open, because you don't want to miss the big one. The $5 million 30-second ad will be aired during the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl 51 on Fox.
Now, this might sound outlandish, but imagine you could find out whether or not you had a fatal disease by simply breathing in and out. Well, it turns out you actually may be able to because an Israeli-led research team has just discovered that illnesses like cancer and Parkinson's can be detected on your breath. Israeli professor Hossam Haik teaches at Israel's elite Technion Institute of Technology, and he's been at the forefront of a major study to characterize different diseases in breath samples. With a team of 56 international researchers, Professor Hayek has been studying more than 1,400 patients with 17 unrelated illnesses, including lung cancer, head and neck cancer, ovarian cancer, Crohn's disease, and more. By testing the chemical composition of their breath samples, the scientists have discovered that all of the diseases contain the same 13 chemical components, which make them easy to detect in breath samples. Now, the researchers are calling a patient's breath a unique fingerprint that enables new technology to quickly detect illnesses with 86% accuracy. Not bad, right? Israeli professor Hayek has already developed Sniffphone, a breathalyzer device to certain kinds of diseases. But his new study finally provides a scientific proof that illnesses can in fact be identified by different chemical signatures. Interestingly enough, though, his research group isn't the first to use a patient's breath to detect disease. Back in 400 BC, before modern medicine was even invented, the Greek physician Hippocrates discovered the phenomena. And now for our Hebrew word of the day. President Donald Trump was inaugurated last Friday, beginning his term as the United States' 45th president. And love him or hate him, that brings us to today's word, atchala, meaning start or beginning. Seeing things from the atchala certainly has its advantages since it's easier to analyze everything that's going on. Like, who wants to start watching a TV series in the middle of a season? After all, a good atchala makes an ending even better. Now, even if Donald Trump's atchala as president hasn't exactly started off smoothly, it's important to maintain hope. As American industrialist Henry Ford once said, coming together is atkhala, keeping together is progress, and working together is success. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast. Tonight should be partly cloudy with a low of 45 or 7 degrees Celsius. Tomorrow you can expect strong winds, but with sunshine and a slight rise in temperatures to a high of 68 or 20 degrees Celsius. All right, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.80 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at iltv.tv. Thanks for watching and see you tonight.